Hey friends, V here, voice of Ivy LaRue, your favorite Tremere. I wanted to let you know about our new podcast. It's called One Shots and Other Mischief, and it's our home for single-serving actual play content. You can find a link for it in the show notes, or you can search for it in your favorite podcast app. In the meantime, you're listening to The All Night Society, an actual play podcast brought to you by Queen's Court Games.
All right, friends. When last we left the coterie, they had only just begun to digest the evidence waiting for them at Chicago Lakeshore Hospital. The top floor of the now-abandoned psychiatric facility has been converted into a prison ward, where someone has been keeping the leader of the Gary coterie, and several dozen mortals, under lock and key. They have been subjected to unimaginable psychic abuse, suffering from mental degeneration that only dementation can explain. But, right as our coterie began to formulate the second half of its plan, a private security car has rolled into the parking lot. You don't know who they are, who they work for, whether this is routine or the result of an alarm. Maya is patrolling the lower floors of the hospital. Rebecca is hunched in a predator's pose on the roof. Ivy is carefully collecting evidence for the prints on a stolen cell phone, all while Schmendrick does her best to navigate the mess of one-way streets and weight-limited roads, returning to Lakeshore Hospital in Big Bob's big truck. Ivy, we'll start with you. The last thing you saw was Rebecca creeping through a window for a better view. How's that going for you?
Without dropping the phone at all, I just close my eyes and shake my head. Nothing is ever easy with the gangrel. It can't just be as simple as use your eyes. It's always become a gargoyle, and we don't have time for this.
Well, don't close your eyes for too long, because then you would miss Zion following her out onto the roof, unwilling to be more than a few feet away from her.
I hate to add to this chaos, but we also have company.
Rebecca sees them. Maya sees them. Schmendrick, you're en route. Ivy, you see Rebecca disappearing. Now what?
I'm still documenting. I haven't heard anybody scream. I haven't heard Rebecca call us to arms. I'm here to document, get as much as we can. I don't know that there's anybody outside. I just see Rebecca perching. I figure she's just keeping a watchful bird's eye view on things.
And you did see Zion move.
I mean, I just assume it's to get close to Rebecca and following her, because that's what blood bonds do. That's what thralls do.
Okay. Well, that's your opinion now. And I'm going to inject just a little bit more information into this moment. And then I'm going to check back in with you and see if that's still your opinion, okay?
Great.
Hey, who's that? Zion is standing silhouetted against the night sky, pointing down at the car, asking with earnest curiosity, Rebecca, who are these people?
Son of a fucking whore.
Maya, from your perch, you see the officers, hear a noise, looking up through the windshield towards the roof of the building. One of them starts to get out of the car, and the other is reaching down by the dashboard.
Damn it. Without saying anything, I pull Zion down and make the be quiet motion with finger to my lips.
Ivy, are we still going with the previous determination about the situation?
No, I think things are about to go pear-shaped.
They don't have to, but I have a really bad idea.
Well, if your idea is not go and destroy the electronics in the car, then it might be bad.
Well, it's not that.
Oh. Why is it not that?
if I can interject, the only thing worse in the world than a distress call is a distress call that gets interrupted by screeching static.
Well, as soon as I notice trouble, I'm going to head right downstairs to stop it.
Have you formulated a plan yet, or is that happening on the way down?
I am a master of improv, I think.
Oh, I'm excited for this.
If I can pass by an office and grab a clipboard, I would love that.
Oh, I'm sure there's one around.
Brilliant. Well, as soon as I get to the first floor and into the parking lot, I summon as much, for lack of a better word, care and energy as I can. Worst case scenario, they're kindred, and they just don't know me, so I can lie about that. Best case scenario, they're mushy-minded mortals.
All right. I'm following you so far. You have the clipboard in your hand. You burst out the door that's nearest where they've parked. What comes out of your mouth?
Finally, you guys are here. Ugh.
The man, who at this point is about 3/4 the way out of the car, is surprised. Obviously did not expect someone to be here. Your voice is loud enough that the woman in the driver's seat has paused, again looking up to the windshield. Her hand's not moving anymore.
I've been expecting you all for maybe 30, 40 minutes now.
I'm sorry, ma'am. Who are you? This site's closed. You shouldn't be here.
Cut the shit. You know exactly who I am. I've been expecting you for way too long, and I expect better service than this. Regardless, you are all supposed to be over there. That's where we said we would meet. And I point in the opposite direction of where Zion and Rebecca are sort of standing. Far side of the hospital.
The gentleman has only grown more confused, but at this point, the woman seems to be picking up a little bit of what you're putting down. She looks across the car. It's okay, Jake. Have a seat. I'll take care of this. You see her exit the car, one hand down on her hip where her pistol is. There's only one reason you should be here, and I didn't hear any news about that. Do you want to explain yourself?
I don't think I need to explain myself to you. If no one told you, then you didn't need to know.
So you're mustering up all of your management energy.
Hell yeah.
All right. Why don't you roll manipulation and intimidation?
Okay, hold on. I rolled 7 dice to make this happen. And that's 3 successes.
So 3 successes is enough to get them to stand down, but not enough to stop them from checking in about it. So the woman, she's relaxing her posture. She's not ready to draw down on you, but she says, all right, well, there's a real easy way to make sure that's the case. Why don't you just stay where I can see you? Jake, keep an eye on her, and I'll just call our boss about it.
Oh, fuck. I genuinely don't think that's necessary. Do you really want to bother him right now? And I will spend the willpower to try to add some more successes.
A perfectly good use of your resources.
So, no successes.
It's a tense situation. Apparently not the kind of thing that you can solve just by putting a sterner voice on. At this point, if you want her to stop, you'll have to do so physically or by removing that idea from her head.
Does it look like did she have her phone out or anything?
She's backing away from you, keeping her eyes on you, but backing away and moving back towards the car where the radio is.
Brilliant. I will use compel to get her to stop.
All right. I'll take that roll.
2 successes.
I'm so sorry. She rolls 5 to resist you. So she's not stopping.
This is going so wrong.
Let's pan up the building. Rebecca, you're seeing this. You're hearing all of this. She's not stopping.
Well, you know the saying, mind over matter, but I think in this case we're going to need to apply a bit more matter. I think it's about time that I scale down and stop this from escalating any further.
It's a lot of distance to cover. If you wanted to just fling yourself off the building, that would do it. A gravity assist to ground level. But if you want to make it down in a controlled fashion, she'll have time to get to the radio by then.
Shit. Well, not the first time I've flung myself from a great flight these nights. Let's do that.
Are you aiming for the people or the car?
I'm aiming for the car in this case. Better landing area.
All right, well, you roll dexterity and athletics for me.
Can do. That's one success.
It's gonna hurt.
I can't accept that, especially not with the urgency of the situation. I'm going to use willpower, roll more dice.
All right, hopefully you have better luck than Maya did.
2 successes.
Well, adding 2 onto 1 will allow you to accomplish your objective in part. You at least land on the car. I wouldn't call it graceful. This isn't one of those superhero pose moments. A bit less like you jumped intentionally. A bit more like you fell. But Maya, you see that Rebecca-shaped blur come hurtling off the 5th floor of the building, slamming down into the roof of the vehicle. The noise is perfect. A screeching smash of steel and glass and twisting plastic. The horn goes off, and then slowly, as the air leaks out of the system, just diminishes into a sad, pathetic whimper. Rebecca, how tall do you suppose that building is?
Well, I jumped off the 4th floor, and being somewhat familiar with urban setup, definitely more than should be survivable.
Yeah, you figured 12 feet in a commercial story. You've jumped off the 4th floor roof. That's at least 48. We'll round it up to 50, which means you'll take 5 superficial damage from the fall.
Yikes. I'm going to have to find a night to lay and recuperate.
Maya, Rebecca needs to collect herself for a moment. What are you doing?
Well, the radio problem has now been solved. Any chance, what's her companion doing?
When Rebecca lands, he's still close enough to the car that he's flinging himself away to safety, diving away from the car, landing on his elbows. He's trying to scramble back up to his feet. The woman is reaching for her hip. She's going to draw her pistol.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. This is why I needed you to meet me on the other side of the building. I would like basically to lean into whatever the fuck is happening here and send these people off after Rebecca.
If you're looking to de-escalate the situation, you've already used Intimidate. That's not going to work. The time for Persuasion has passed on account of percent chance of gangrel rain.
In that case, I guess I didn't want to do this. I really didn't. I'm seriously waiting for anyone to stop me from using Touch of Oblivion on these people.
Oh no, go ahead. I am not in a good state. My health is totally fucked. Please go ahead.
Well, at the very least, you could try telling her to drop her weapon so there are no gunshots.
Well, the first thing I'll do is ask her to drop her weapon.
You're going to ask her or tell her?
I'm going to tell her. First a blood search, and then I'll use compel. Drop your weapon.
All right. Well, first things first, make a rouse check. See if the beast increases your hunger based on the demands you make of the blood.
Success.
All right. Your hunger stays where it is. Go ahead and roll for compel, adding 2 bonus dice.
3 successes.
Well, let us see how well she resists. And she scores 4 against your 3. The only thing she intends to drop right now is you.
With apologies to Schmendrick's shirt, at least.
So we can call that the first round of combat for Maya, the guards, and Rebecca. Ivy, you've heard the sound of a gangrel-shaped object impacting with a vehicle?
Yes, I have. So I'm going to take a page out of Rebecca's book and join Zion on the perch that I pray he is still standing on.
We all do silly things for supernaturally enforced love, but jumping off the building. I don't know about that.
Good. Once I get into position, I would like to use Blood Needle at the woman that Maya is engaged with.
Right. Well, it will take you that first turn to make it out onto the roof and line up your targets. As the second round starts, we will go in initiative order. That starts with Rebecca. The man on your right is crawling up off of the pavement. The woman on your left is bearing a pistol down on Maya.
Well, she's the most immediate threat. She has her weapon out and holstered. I think I know where my priorities lay. I'm going to grab that woman and make sure she can't shoot anymore.
Are you intending to hurt her or just to tangle her up?
I intend to subdue her. There's no need to spill blood. Yet.
Very well. Strength and brawl, please.
5 successes?
Yeah, that'd do it. I don't expect her dodge pool to be that good, but as Maya's proved, you never know. No. She rolls 1 success against your 5. You manage to get a hand around her forearm, wrenching back against the elbow, bending it the wrong direction. You can hear her yelp with pain. The pistol clatters to the pavement. You have her tangled up, which is good news. She won't be able to do anything else until she escapes your grasp. On the other hand, you also have to commit to maintaining this grapple. So you'll have to keep a hold of her until such a time as you decide to do otherwise.
Noted.
Next in order would be, I believe, Ivy.
I can't imagine I will be able to successfully blood needle this grappled person without risk of stabbing Rebecca with it too, huh?
I mean, do you care?
I'd rather not hurt Rebecca if I can avoid it.
Okay, hey, I'm just saying.
That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
I mean, Ivy has made different decisions on different occasions, but to answer your question, yes, that would be a risk.
What is the man doing?
He's going to recover from being knocked down this turn.
See, I don't think I can spit from this distance. That's the sticky bit.
No, definitely not.
Oh, I don't want to kill the humans, but I also don't want them to be up and around anymore. So I might try flinging a blood needle in the man's direction then and see if he's gotten more than he bargained for tonight.
Do you mean in his direction or at him?
In his direction? Because I don't want to kill him, right? I just need him not to do anything rash right now.
Okay. Well, the worst thing that could happen in this case would be you fail horribly on your roll. You're specifically aiming away from him, but close enough that he recognizes what's happening, right? If you just fired off a blood needle into the air, he wouldn't recognize the threat.
Exactly.
So go ahead and make your blood needle roll.
Rousing success for the check. Ooh, and that is 4 successes.
You see him, he's on his elbows, he's pushing up onto his hands, he's looking over to where the commotion is, and then inches from his face, the projectile impacts, and he throws himself flat on the ground. Maya, you hear quite clearly, Rebecca also likely. You see him throwing his hands out to the sides. Okay, oh my god, what the fuck are you? He's panicked. Chicago public schools aren't the greatest in the world, but they do teach you that people should not survive hurling themselves off of buildings onto cars, and those who do should not be able to immediately throw themselves into a grappling match with your coworker. He recognizes that he is out of his element in this moment. Dude just wants to pay his bills, wants to make it home to his wife. Didn't sign up for this.
Well, that's one half of the problem solved then.
He's handled.
Yeah, he surrendered. The woman is still struggling.
So, now that this woman is being restrained, would it be a little easier to maybe get my hands on her?
Yeah, I mean, Rebecca's not letting her go anywhere.
Welp. I'm so sorry.
honest question before we make this decision.
I'd rather not kill them.
I was going to say, do you really want to kill him?
I don't.
Yeah, I really don't want to kill them, which is why I wanted to grapple her.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we just crashed our car.
No, I actually don't personally want to kill her. We'll see what the dice say, but I don't want to kill anyone.
I mean, you don't have to roll to put handcuffs on them. They are security guards. They have handcuffs.
That is where we're going to pivot to. With both of them no longer standing threats, I can easily remove their handcuffs from them and apply them. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do that then.
The man is not resisting at all. Rebecca is incredibly strong. The woman is not going to be able to break out of Rebecca's grapple. You secure them both with handcuffs, and you can store them at your leisure.
3 hostages in 2 nights must be some sort of record for at least one of us.
This tender moment is interrupted by the sound of a loud diesel engine. Your ears perk up, perhaps with fear, a touch of anxiety, until you see the beaming face of Big Bob on the logo for his truck. Schmendrick has finally found the appropriate route to the hospital.
Oh, thank Schmendrick. Let's get these people out of here.
What a sight she comes home to.
Yeah, I like to imagine I don't immediately notice the mess currently in the front of the hospital. And when I do see it, I just solemnly shake my head while backing up into the front entrance area so we can easily load people in.
You leave these guys alone for 5 minutes. Look what happens.
In my
Gosh.
defense, it was a rather drastic situation, and stairs aren't the speediest way to get down.
It's always someone else's fault.
There is a tinge of pride, however, that they were able to solve this without making people explode, but,
For once.
you know, I can't tell them that.
Once I see that Rebecca and Maya are successfully handling the guards and I hear the truck, I climb back in through the window and just continue documenting things as if nothing interrupted me.
I take it the people aren't ready to go, huh? I say as I turn off the engine of the truck.
There was a change in plan.
We got noticed. Figured Newberry had eyes here, and, well, we're handling the situation.
Also, it didn't feel like leaving, 40-odd mentally ill people on the street would be the best or least conspicuous way to handle this.
I wasn't thinking the street so much, but the foyer, so I could easily load them. But it's no problem now. Maybe bring those 2 in. They can watch as we rescue a whole lot of people. I don't know.
So at the moment, Ivy is wrapping up her guerrilla documentary about the American mental health system. Rebecca and Schmendrick and Maya are going to go upstairs and start transferring inmates, prisoners.
Yeah.
The Maya solution to this particular masquerade violation is not going to be a solution that the rest of us want to deal with.
I want to say this is why I'm in charge of it.
Oh, sorry, I was referring to our captives.
Oh.
Maya is right. It is known there are certain vampires who can go in and just wriggle around in people's memories, taking out the bad ones, putting in the good ones. It's a thing that you all can do, some of you. There's no reason that the same person you find who will work their way through these captives will not also be able to apply those skills against the 2 guards here. At the point where you've asked for 36 favors, well, hey, what's one more?
That's definitely my plan right now. I want to bring those 2 in as well, because my thought's the same as Maya's. We can just send these 2 off to the same place the others are going, and they can get a clean bill of health and get sent on their merry way.
It's not a simple thing to take this many broken minds and escort them out of the building. Zion is cooperating because the Vita that Rebecca gave him leaves him no choice. The others have to be coached and cowed and coaxed in the same way you would another person in the throes of serious mental trauma. It's not impossible. It does take time. 2 of you having to work with each patient to make sure things go okay, helping them down the stairs. Someone has to watch them, of course, at all stages. Takes probably the better part of an hour. Who is watching the truck in the meantime?
I would volunteer for that because I do have some important phone calls to make.
Really? Who are you getting hold of?
Well, there's only one kindred other than myself that I can think of that will help these people or feel the need or compulsion to help them, and that would be Khalid.
The Nosferatu Primogen.
That would be the one.
Well, he is, among other things, notoriously difficult to get hold of. As far as you know, there's no one who can reach him by phone, or if that information exists, you're not privy to it.
Well, there's Edith, who I don't see a lot of similarities between her and Khalid, but she is in the know. There are a lot of people that suck up to her, owe her favors. Perhaps she would know better than most where to reach him.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to say that Damien would know roughly where Khalid might be, but I want to leave Damien till after we have things mostly settled.
Fair enough. Well, the proprietor of the Painted Lady does keep odd hours. You could call the parlor, say the right words to the right people. It's not an immediate response. Edith, after all, an artist, a businesswoman, she's not going to drop everything to speak to you. But if you're willing to wait an hour and a half, she'll get back to you.
Guess that's all I can do for now. I'm not sure if I could be convincing over the phone that it needs to be hurried, but at the same time, I don't want to get in bad with Edith being really pushy.
No, of course not. Then that begs a question. Eventually you will have rounded up all of your hostages and or freedom-deprived individuals, we'll call them. It's your sincere hope that Edith will point you to Khalid, who will point you to a solution, but until then, what are we doing with these people?
I really can't keep more people in storage units. I've already got one there that I don't want. Well, hopefully he's gone now, but do any of you have any thoughts about that?
Well, the silos aren't secure, per se, but they're spacious enough that I could keep them all hidden if they're agreeable. And I'll have help looking to wherever Zion is.
Oh, you don't have to look more than 6 inches. He's right there.
Oh.
That actually may not be a bad idea. It's not exactly sanitary for them, but hopefully we won't be keeping them there for very long.
Right, and the birds are out during the daylight hours, so hopefully they won't be too upset with me.
Always nice of Rebecca to think of the wildlife.
They lived in the silos before I did. It's a little rude of me to bring in sudden house guests.
Hey, we all have different attitudes towards our roommates. We have different attitudes about what constitutes a roommate. But I'm not here to say anything bad about Rebecca's way of life. So then that is your night for now, yes? Schmendrick, you'll drive with Rebecca to the grain silo to offload your temporary guests?
Mm-hmm. And make sure they have water, food, blankets. I know they're incredibly weak considering their ordeal, but I want to make sure they're at least warm and taken care of.
Ever the humanitarian. Which leaves Ivy and Maya, your plans?
I'm pretty much just here for the ride. Me sticking back and getting involved in all of this is purely because Schmendrick asked.
Aw, you're so sweet.
There's room for 4 in the cab. You can all listen to Danger Dan on your way to the grain silo.
Oh boy.
I like now. See, now I have it in my head that Bob has turned it to Danger Dan and then ripped the knob off so he can never listen to anything else and nobody can even entertain the idea of changing the station.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Danger Dan only keeps certain hours, right? From like 5 p.m. to something. I recall him saying that.
I don't actually know his broadcast schedule.
Oh, okay. I thought you mentioned that, and I was like, wait, is Danger Dan a vampire based on his hours?
I do know that, like, Art Bell, the conspiracy guy who all conspiracy guys are based off of, went from midnight to 6 a.m.
Interesting.
Well, my point was, if my presence is not needed at the grain silo, I do not want to go to the grain silo, and I would actually rather spend my time setting up a meeting with the prince. We know that we have to get to him and explain everything that we've done. Might be a better use of my skills.
Oh, you're all filled up on grain silo, huh?
Yeah, weirdly enough, had enough of it the last, 12 hours.
Right in front of me.
Not to say that I did not appreciate it. It just, when you go out to a place and you get a little tired and you're just like, I just want to go home. It was kind of like that. I appreciated being out in your haven, but I just don't need to go back anytime soon.
Okay.
Well, it's my presumption that there is no universe in which Maya would allow Ivy to set up the meeting without some of her input, correct?
I trust Schmendrick and Rebecca well enough to take care of these people. However, I would like to oversee Ivy's setting up of this meeting.
Why? Don't you trust her?
Not as far as I can throw her, and I only have one strength.
It's weird. The two of you agree on so much. Can't trust each other, don't want to leave the other person unattended. Two sides of the same untrustworthy kindred coin.
Please do not compare me to Camarilla Barbie.
I love that.
Better than Sabat Stacy.
Oh my god.
I love that too. Well, ladies, you will have plenty of time to express your, I would call it concealed disdain, but I don't like lying to you, from one another as you arrange the terms for this revelatory moment between the coterie and the prince. Nothing in Chicago moves that fast, certainly nothing with kindred. By the time that Maya and Ivy have made arrangements with the prince and received their instructions, that will be plenty of time for Rebecca and Schmendrick to, as best they can, comfort and secure Sun's prisoners. In your wake, you leave an empty hospital, a shattered security car, and from there the little ripples are going to spread throughout Chicago. The first of those ripples will intersect with the Painted Lady. Schmendrick, Edith is the closest thing you have to an ally in the city, and it makes sense that she would be able to put you in touch with Khalid, who, you are correct, to your knowledge has the same beliefs about the value of human beings that you do. Time being what it is, you don't get that call back until you've finished unloading your patients.
That's potentially a small complication if I have to move them again, but I'm willing to do whatever.
Well, you recognize the number. It's from the parlor.
I will waste no time in answering it. Hello?
Ah. Hello, darling. I was hoping it was you. You rang.
Yeah, I am in desperate need of your help. I need to get in touch with Khalid.
You can hear her tone sharpening just a bit. Names are powerful things when spoken into microphones monitored by the government. Ah, yes, our mutual friend. May I ask why?
It aligns with his interests. I believe I would consider it a humanitarian effort, and he's the only one I can think of at this moment who can help me.
I see. If I may be so bold, my dear, is this something that might threaten our social club?
It isn't yet, and that's kind of what I'm working to prevent.
I see. Well, yes, you are correct. Our friend does care deeply about such things. The reputation of our club among them. Unfortunately, I must say regretfully, my dear, none of us know how to reach him with any speed. Is this urgent?
I look towards the 3 dozen or so people wrapped in blankets sitting under a grain silo. And I just say, yeah, it's pretty urgent.
I see.
Are there people that work under him that would be sent to deal with this now until he can address it?
Oh, for me to be able to answer that, I would have to know the specifics of the situation. Is it possible for us to meet in person to discuss this?
Yeah. My place or yours?
Oh, you know how it is on the weekends, love. I am terribly busy. I could perhaps squeeze you in between few appointments.
Okay. I'll be there as soon as possible.
For the darling. I'll see you then.
See you, Edith. I will hang up the call, look over to Rebecca and say, I gotta leave you with these people. I will try not to be long. And take care of them, right?
Of course. You know they're in good hands here, Schmendrick. And I've got help with me.
Okay, thank you a lot. I'll be back as soon as I can. If we can get these people moved out tonight, that would be for the best.
Here's hoping. And stay safe out there, Schmendrick.
I'll try.
Elsewhere in the city, a second ripple lands. This one with a ghoul whose voice you've become quite accustomed to in the last few nights. Yes, our employer is very busy, however. Am I to understand that you've reached the conclusion of your investigation and are prepared to make a report?
We have, yes.
You understand that this has a measure of finality to it. There will be no further time for evidence gathering or other activities.
Completely. We don't need any more time.
Very well. Well, I can tell you this. Our employer is quite busy this evening. Would I be able to pencil you in for tomorrow evening, say 9 o'clock?
If that is the earliest our employer is able to see us, yes.
I assure you, he takes this situation just as seriously as you do and is acting with the utmost expediency that his position allows.
Will this meeting tomorrow be a private meeting?
No. One of the reasons it will take so long to schedule is that our employer needs to assemble all the principally interested parties.
It would be in our employer's best interest to keep the madmen out of our meeting.
I see. Am I to understand this will be tied to your allegations?
That is correct. The sun and the moon go hand in hand in this respect.
Very well. I will see that this information is communicated. You can expect to meet with our employer at his office, 9 p.m., tomorrow evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a pleasant evening. Well, that shores up your responsibilities. You have the rest of the night. What little of it remains ahead of you? What is Ivy going to do with the remainder of the night?
I haven't heard anything from Schmendrick. I haven't heard anything from Rebecca. I'm assuming offloading everybody has gone well. So one of the options I have is to stay here with Maya, and the other one is to just go home. I like option B better, unless Maya has some reason to want to hang out with me.
Maya, is there any reason in the universe you would spend more time with Ivy LaRue than you have to?
Absolutely not. At least not anymore. I would like to go home and take a bath.
And secure a change of clothes, I imagine.
I assumed that came after the bath.
Well, you're free of the witch. No need to stay around. Back home you go. It's been a few too many nights since you were back in your own apartment, huh? Well, whatever relief you expect from being safely within your own haven is no doubt cowed by the pacing figure of your assistant in the doorway.
I'm used to nervous energy, but this seems more than that.
The very moment you appear and her eyes make the connection between your face past that information to the brain, she almost sprints in your direction, thrusting out a message. This came only 3 or 4 minutes ago for you, ma'am. I didn't know how to reach you, so I was just waiting here. I hope that's okay.
No, that's absolutely fine.
It's from her?
I'll just open it.
You have a handwritten note from Sierra Van Burrace. Seems you also have an appointment. 8:30 p.m. tomorrow evening.
Completely unsurprising.
She's inviting you to accompany her on a voyage.
I need to talk to her anyway. I'm unsurprised that she'd want to meet beforehand. Accompany her on a voyage is a very strange way of asking, but I have a boater's hat somewhere.
Well, that likewise will leave you with the remainder of the evening to tend to your own needs. Hygiene, I think, first among them, as you've specified, but other requirements of undead existence as the night continues. Which takes us to Schmendrick, transiting the city in Big Bob's big truck. Well, that's going to make parking at the Painted Lady a little difficult. You'll have to sequester yourself in the alley behind the storefronts.
That suits me just fine. I wouldn't want to sully her establishment with a gaudy image of Bob's face. So,
I'm going to tell Bob you said that.
oh, that's okay. He'll survive.
It too, Schmendrick.
It's fair. Regardless, I will make haste into the Painted Lady. I will try to not alert anyone once I'm inside, even though I am in a hurry, and just kind of wait to speak with Edith.
Edith runs a tight ship. Based on your last experience, you know the best way to handle it is to check in with the receptionist. Use the name that Edith told you to use. That's the signal that she needs. There are folks in the lobby who've been waiting for hours in advance of their appointment, making absolutely certain they were there exactly on time, lest their appointment be forfeit. So imagine the looks that you get as only minutes after arriving, you're ushered behind the curtain, deeper into the establishment.
Well, I'm not getting a tattoo, so hopefully they can forgive me.
Down the familiar hallway, down the familiar stairs, to the familiar door at the end of the familiar corridor. You recognize the scene, the same parlor where Edith began to open your mind to the powers of Nosferatu blood. The door is slightly ajar. Even before you've closed the distance entirely, you hear her voice. Come on in.
I do not delay, entering straight in, closing the door behind me as I don't want. I'm sure the place is secure enough, but I don't want that little crack to remain when I'm going to tell her something so very important.
Oh no, the utmost of secrecy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my dear, I don't have a terribly long amount of time before my next appointment is due. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you need?
Do you want the basics, or do you want to get into the nitty-gritty of this? As I say that, I'm actually bringing out the phone we stole and flipping to some of the documented photos, particularly the one of Newberry's face, painted in Vita, and some of the images of people that were in there and were trying to save.
A piece of advice that will serve you well for the remainder of your stay in Chicago, but it is a dangerous thing to overshare. Let's stick with just the need to know.
Okay. With that, I will thumb away from the Newberry image and just hand her the phone. A kindred set up this little torture hospital. I'm looking to get these people somewhere safe to recuperate, rather than having him or her come back and dispose of them in other means.
Oh my. Her face is terribly serious as she looks over your evidence. And you've rescued these souls, yes? Where are they now?
They're at another friend's haven for the moment. They can't stay there, though. It's not clean enough.
I see. And these, poor friends of yours, have they been exposed to the truth of our nature?
Yes.
Oh, Schmendrick, I believe you understand the gravity of this request. It's going to require a tremendous amount of energy and time to repair all of them.
Honestly, the cost isn't what bothers me. I would sooner see this done.
Well, I do know that Tyr Khalid would be happy to help with the endeavor, at least insofar as securing someone who can help you. Manipulating memory is more of a Ventru thing. Not exactly folks you can trust, but it's them or the Tremere, and she just starts laughing to herself. Very well. How long will they be safe with your friend?
I'm not sure. They're all suffering under the effects of dementation.
I see.
if there is no one to take care of them during the day, I worry that they will wander.
No, and that is a frightful concern that elevates the urgency. Curious, though, you found them in a hospital. Dementation, that does narrow down the possible culprits, Schmendrick. Are you sure you want to end up on this person's bad side?
It does narrow down the culprit. I know exactly who it is. And honestly, at this point, he's ended up on my bad side, so this is how this is going to be.
Very well. If you are willing to assume the debts and the risk, I will assist you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
You're such a curious creature, Schmendrick. Your commitment to humanity, others, and your own is unusual for our kind, but I find that endearing about you.
For most things, I just sort of listen to my heart, and it's curious that it doesn't resonate as much the longer you live, I suppose.
Certainly not if my experience is to be believed. But there is something admirable about sticking to principles despite the demands of our existence. But no time to wax philosophical. I have art to create, and you have a crisis to resolve. I will do my best to see that Kyle gets in touch with you.
Thank you so much. I will be needing the phone back, though. It's part of the evidence, I suppose.
Yes, no doubt very powerful people would love to see what's on that phone. A word of advice, though.
Okay.
There's a backup on the iPhone system, yes? Perhaps ensure that that data is corrupted and keep a copy for yourself.
I was going to wipe everything clean because the phone is unfortunately not mine.
So it goes. Well, do be taking care, Schmendrick.
You too, Edith. Thank you so much. And knowing that she is a busy lady, I will take my leave and await whatever phone call is going to come.
But I regret to inform you that that phone call will not come tonight. Not every Nosferatu is so technologically savvy. Neither is every kindred so willing to flout the Camarilla's restrictions on the use of electronic devices. Someone will find Khalid. Khalid will eventually find you, but at the pace of foot traffic rather than email traffic.
Then I'm left with a conundrum.
Are you afraid Rebecca's going to charge you rent?
No. Mostly I don't want the people to be... I suppose if the grain silo has a door, we could lock it. Thoughts for later, I suppose.
Not too much later. The day sleep will claim you. I'll admit it does sound a bit inhumane to lock them where they are, but it's not the worst thing that's happened to them, and at least you do have their best interest at heart.
That was my thought, was they've been locked in tiny cells for so long. One more day probably isn't going to break the bank there. They'll have food, water. We'll just see what happens, I guess. I do have one human contact I can possibly use to take care of them, but this is more explaining than I think I need to get into with Bob right now, so I want to leave him out of this.
Bob has a lot to process these last few nights.
Best not stack on here's 36 addled people onto the list.
I agree, and I'm sure if given the opportunity, he would thank you for your discretion. Is there any other business that folks would like to tend to before the day sleep comes?
None, but man, I went from 0 roommates to, 31? 41?
It's sad to say that the birds are better behaved,
Oh dear.
but such is the consequence of an evil mind set loose to break the minds of others. Well, in any case, Rebecca Schmendrick, you have to entertain only one visitor in the remainder of the night. One last, unexpected guest. A courier, bearing the handwritten word of Prince Kevin Jackson, conveying to you the time and place of the meeting tomorrow evening. 9 p.m., his office. You've been there. You know the route.
I accept this missive with a very much do not look behind the curtain.
How's Schmendrick's poker face?
Yeah, nothing is happening behind me. Thank you for the message.
The prince's retainers aren't paid to pry. And with the message delivered, you have time to reflect, to organize your stories, and to prepare yourself mentally for what will come. Night turns to day turns to night. The night, as it were. 4 of you have quite the agenda, but as every night begins, this one also requires contemplation of the beast. Will you make a rouse check as you rise from your beds to face the evening?
Rousing success.
I too have a rousing success.
3 rousing successes.
Not 4. That's a hunger gain.
I wonder why it is that the beast is more tempestuous in Rebecca compared to her colleagues. Could it be her roommates?
It's been a trying night, and I really haven't had the chance to lay down. The beast is getting irksome, I'd say.
You're still a little beat up, huh?
Just a little.
Well, when isn't the beast irksome? That's its nature. That's what it does. It compels you into behaviors you would not consider otherwise and makes demands that you consider vile. Can't escape it. It's yours for eternity to wrangle with, to bargain with, to deny on occasion or satiate on others.
It's the price I pay.
And unfortunately, no time tonight to placate it, because you all have an appointment to keep. The prince has invited you to his mansion. For others, a detour is required. Maya, your presence has been requested isn't quite the right word. You don't seem like the type to keep Sierra waiting.
Most anything a Lasombra does for another Lasombra has a air of being voluntold.
I'm not sure you would recognize the chauffeur who this evening has been tasked with driving Miss Van Burrace to and fro. But your Lasombra elder does not seem perturbed by her driver. You don't have the sense of danger. No sooner have you slid in to the leather confines of the vehicle than she launches upon you with a single question. A demand, more like. Tell me everything I need to know.
That's quite the request.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't intend for it to sound like a request.
There's a lot to it. Individuals from Gary were hired to do everything.
By who?
Son Newberry.
The Malkavian. I should have known. We did suspect him, of course, but I didn't imagine he would be so foolhardy to take so rash an action. Did he act alone?
To my understanding, he did. There's a piece that's missing and we don't have the time to find it. But he could have gotten blood magic from anywhere.
In my experience, Maya, blood magic only comes from one place. Are you implying the Tremere are also implicated?
I had thought that. I still think so. But I do not have any evidence that points in that direction. I would not put it on record.
I'm less concerned with what goes before the prince and more concerned with what goes before the Amici. If Prince Kevin Jackson fails to deliver justice to my satisfaction, I assure you Clan Lasombra will see it carried out properly. Given that, do the Tremere carry responsibility?
I honestly cannot say. There's been a Tremere with us the entire time, you know that. And I posed it to her and she got defensive. But it may just be her devotion to the whole Ponzi scheme.
I see. Well, absent any conclusions, what can you tell me about the alleged Tremere involvement?
I cannot prove to you that the Tremere were not involved. I can tell you there's at least one who is dangerous to the Masquerade.
You've split my attention in 2 directions, Maya. I am curious, of course, to which Tremere can be blackmailed due to their sloppy handling of our secrets. We'll return to that.
But that's my point. She was used against us.
Explain yourself.
We were ambushed by the Second Inquisition during the investigation. And it was revealed, to my understanding, that they managed to get this information because Ivy LaRue is known to them.
I see.
Actually, if you'd like to investigate further, I have a present for you.
Oh, I do love presents.
However, whether or not the Tremere are involved in the fire, we should be careful with how we interact with them from here on.
Every kindred should be careful of how they interact with the Tremere, and if one among them is known to the Second Inquisition, that is fortunate. It puts the entire city in danger, and the prince will be forced to act. And while I do appreciate that information, my dear, you have yet to explain to me how they might have been involved in burning my fucking hotel down.
Well, as I mentioned the first time we met, the reason that that particular Nosferatu was implicated in the fire was because they were using blood magic, potion of some sort. But since you can just buy that, apparently, with favors or money, I can't prove anything beyond someone who can use blood magic to change their face, bottled this up, and sold it.
I see. Well, that is disappointing. I had hoped that someone along this path might have provided illumination into those secrets. No matter. We have friends who can look into it.
Besides, it would be very convenient for us and also chaotic if two high-ranking kindred from two different clans went down tonight.
Very politically astute of you. No, I'm sure the Amici also do not wish to see the city destabilized such, not with so powerful an anarch presence here. Very well. As you know, I will not be making this case to the prince. That responsibility falls upon you and your peers. What do you intend to tell Prince Jackson?
I fully intend on telling him the truth.
How much of the truth?
Son Newberry moved against the La Sombra for whatever purpose. He's unreliable and, frankly, a potential masquerade violation for everyone, which is, important to all of us now.
Yes, indeed.
I hate the idea of destabilizing Chicago when we've just moved in and worked so hard to get here.
You are correct. A small amount of instability suits our needs, but a full-on sect war, or God forbid another fight over Praxis, does us no favors. I have one last question for you, though. In your encounter with the Second Inquisition, was your identity compromised?
I covered it as best I could. Thankfully, I won't show up on any recordings, but my car was taken out. It was reported stolen, but who knows?
How attached are you to Renee?
Good help is so hard to find.
Then I will do you the favor of allowing you this choice. Would you prefer that we relocate her, create a new identity, perhaps allow her to live some semblance of a normal life? Or would you prefer to not be informed when we solve this problem?
How do I know if you relocate her, you're not going to solve the problem anyway?
You've done me a tremendous favor, Maya. You have acquitted yourself with excellence, and the information that you have provided will do great things to advance the La Sombra cause. Your discovery by the Second Inquisition is unfortunate, but I am in a position to extend favors for those who've earned them. And if she is so important to you that her life is worth those favors, so be it. Name your price. But it should go without saying that if the car was found, Renee will be found soon after, and her connection to you makes her a liability. One that either the Second Inquisition or other kindred will exploit. And we La Sombra do not tolerate liabilities.
I'll need a replacement.
Are we bargaining now?
Are you going to leave me without anyone to facilitate my daily needs?
No, I suppose not. You would be a much less capable servant were that the case.
Relocate Renee. She lives.
As you like. As for yourself, I'm sure the prince will call a trial once he is given this information. You can't tear down a primogen on a whim. The others will demand the evidence be heard publicly. I expect you to attend this trial with Clan La Sombra's interests at the fore of your mind.
I fully assume if it doesn't go your way, you will make it go your way regardless.
Son Newberry won't live to see the end of this, whether by the sheriff's hand or by ours. No one does this to Clan La Sombra.
May I ask you a question then?
Of course.
How well do you know the prince?
As friends?
Or other?
Not as well as I'd like. Why?
Just curious. Wanted to know what weight you had behind that.
No, in that regard, unfortunately, my hands are tied. If the other Primogen sniffed out Lasombra influence, they would certainly declare some kind of mistrial or plot, and Mr. Newberry would be able to escape into the evening with his little head intact.
Well, in that case, I will do my best.
Oh, you don't have a choice, dear. This isn't about your best. It's about accomplishing our needs. Do so, and you will be rewarded. Fail to do so? Well, Lasombra don't fail, do we?
No. One other thing. There may be a chance that son Newberry diablerized other kindred in his care.
Do you have evidence of this?
We can check, but we have a witness.
If the witness presents credible testimony at the trial, the prince will be forced to accept the use of auspex. It's invasive, but in this case, the charges will merit it. His crime will be displayed for all to see.
I mostly bring it up because if the prince doesn't believe our witness, I'm sure you'll find someone who can use it anyway.
Oh, you're quite right there. Well, my dear Maya, it wouldn't do well for us to be seen entering the occasion together. I have every confidence you will ensure that Clan Lasombra is represented fairly and properly in the events to come.
I just leave.
You step out of the vehicle onto the curb. Off it drives. It will be a short walk for Maya to arrive where the rest of the coterie already has. That familiar white building with its familiar accents. The familiar ghoul at the door. You are expected. He wastes no time, escorting you up the grand staircase in the center of the foyer, turning right down a wood-paneled hallway to the prince's office at the end of the corridor. It was in this office that your tribulations began. God willing, if you believe in such things, this is where they will end. Ivy, Rebecca, Schmendrick, Maya, what's going through your head in those last 15, 20 feet before you arrive at the door?
I'm kind of doing a mental double check in my head. This phone, I spent a little time before coming here just basically stripping it down. It's barely even a phone anymore. It's just holding the data. It's not giving out any kind of pings. No calls will be traced from it. And I made a backup as well. So hopefully all my T's are crossed in that regard.
Rebecca?
I wouldn't call it anxiety exactly, but there's a weight in my chest as we take those final few strides. We know what Newberry did. We have evidence. We have Zion's word, Michaela, Schmendrick's phone. But there's just this sinking feeling in my stomach that something isn't going to go right. Whether it's the damn Camarilla or whatever status quo they have to hold up at this point. I just have a feeling that Newberry isn't going to get punished.
Ivy?
At some point, you've done everything you can. You've pulled all the information. You've studied everything. You know your thesis forwards and backwards and upside down and sideways. And at that point, all you can do is make your case, right? Hopefully, we can do a good enough job of it. But the time for worrying about any of that is kind of over. We're walking into something that's going to change the political landscape of Chicago, for better, for worse. Whether or not son Newberry's removed from his position or dusted, things are going to change. I can't even fathom how it's going to change. I also don't have the time to put into it. So I'm just trying to prepare myself, remembering all the little details, remembering absolutely everything so we can sell the case. And then it's out of our hands.
Maya?
I cannot think of a single thing I'm going to say tonight, or any of us are going to say, that would sway the prince if Son has anything on him, or if he's afraid of destabilizing Chicago. There's a concept of noblesse oblige. The privileged owe the people under them a certain level of care and attention. And I don't know if the Lasombra qualify to the prince as his subjects yet, regardless of what we've done. I'm going to go in there and say what I need to say, but in the end, I don't think that it's going to do anything. And how the prince reacts to this is going to tell us a lot about his actual priorities.
Well, that's an interesting set of worries. Ivy worried that what they're about to say is going to bring the city crumbling down. Maya convinced perhaps it won't. Schmendrick losing herself in technical routines. Rebecca carried by the strength of her convictions and a need for, is it justice? Is it revenge? In either case, you want to see son Newberry punished. What do we know about the prince so far? About his interests and proclivities, his designs for the city, the ways in which his ego and plans for Chicago might shape any decisions that he has to make? What do you know about yourselves? Are you confident enough in your ability to present the case? Can, by strength of argument, you overcome Maya's anxieties and ensure that Ivy's prophecies come true? You have an impressive arsenal of information, but the truth doesn't always matter with Kindred, does it? Your society is built on lies and blackmail and favors, and you're absolutely right. There's no way to know which of those things Newberry has curried with Kevin Jackson, or the prince has handed out to his primogen. Maybe Ivy was right, minus one small adjustment. Someone's life in Chicago is going to change by the end of the evening. If you've done your job correctly, it should be son Newberry's. If he gets away with it, it's going to be yours.
So here we are then. Your escort raps lightly on the door. From the other side, the prince replies in his usual, gently irritated timbre. Yes, come in. Let's get this over with. Prince Kevin Jackson sits behind that titanic desk, upright and arms folded as he stares from his perch on a high-backed leather chair, taking a moment to look at each of you individually. You feel his eyes searching, peering, prying, looking for any clues you might give away as to how this meeting is going to go. And then finally, he speaks. All right, what have you got for me?
Kind of a mess, actually. Very tangled web. We've basically come to the conclusion that the person responsible is Jason Newberry.
That is a weighty accusation. I hope you have evidence enough to support that kind of claim.
We first-hand witnesses to what he has done, and those who were involved directly with his scheme. The burning of the Diamond Yama was his plot, his responsibility.
So you've said, but to repeat myself, which I don't enjoy doing, I hope you have evidence to back up that claim.
He was very good about disposing a lot of it, but we do have the witness testimonials without our leading even.
I'm waiting for you to tell me a story that starts with the Diamond Yama Hotel catches fire and ends with son Newberry is responsible. Can any of you do that?
All right. And I look to the others to see if they're going to say anything.
Following the burning, we went directly to Charles Dawson's bar. Upon entering his basement, we found evidence of explosives. However, it was suspiciously laid out. They were all laid out in a desk out front, no chance of hiding them, as if it was laid out to wait for us.
So your evidence that son Newberry is responsible is that Charles Dawson is sloppy.
No, it was far too obvious. A lot of the tracks that led from the printed receipts and whatnot led to Gary, Indiana, which, as far as I'm aware, Charles Dawson doesn't exactly frequent Gary. And some of the chemicals that were stolen came from Horatio Ballard's factory, which were coincidentally stolen by our Gary kindred as well. All for the benefit of Sun.
We were given additional evidence from Sierra, other footage from the Diamond Yama, including the perpetrators of the fire drinking from what we now know is a blood magic potion. something to give someone else Charles's face.
Which I'm sure you're prepared to prove if I bring this before the Primaging Council.
We have the person who took the potion.
And we've the footage.
Video evidence.
All right. So far, some Gary kindred and someone wearing Charles Dawson's face broke into a chemical factory owned by Horatio Ballard and used that material to make incendiary devices that were then placed in the Diamond Yama Hotel. That is the story so far?
Yes. And we've given you method, we haven't given you motive, correct?
Let's get all the pieces on the table first before we start playing the wire. All right? So you find evidence of these kindred breaking into Horatio Ballard's facility. What next?
At that time, we were actually still on the fence about whether or not it was Charles. So Ivy actually gave Charles a phone call hoping that he would answer, and that's what brought us into Gary proper. It was a trap. Charles never called us, at least I don't think he did, but we did find one of the Gary kindred there.
I see.
Michaela, her name is. We sent her your way. She let us know where she and her conspirators were to meet their patron for this crime. It was at Lakeshore Hospital. It was there where we discovered Zion, the Gary coterie's de facto leader, in a state of utter depravity along with 40 other mortals. He had scribbled in his own Vita images of Jason Newberry, and until we intervened, was in no state to speak of what happened to him.
It's at this moment I actually take my phone out. Not sure if Damien's here and he needed to take the phone first, and just scroll to all the documentation that Ivy made, and specifically all the Vita paintings of Son Newberry. And I make sure the prince gets to see it.
Well, I won't say it's an exact likeness, but I can see where this is going. Why were these Gary kindred cooperating with Mr. Newberry, allegedly?
Allegedly, someone, we now know it was Newberry, promised the Gary coterie that they would be able to flourish here, or essentially get back at Ballard for everything that happened. Get back at Chicago.
You're implying that Primogen, Son Newberry, recruited a cell of Gary kindred to conduct a campaign of terror against my city.
It would not be the first time someone's done that.
It seems though he exploited the existing conflict and used them for his own means.
And he started with La Sombra because...
Because he was vehemently opposed to bringing the La Sombra into the Camarilla. He was the most...
So we're half of the city.
Not like this. He also had the biggest outburst once the La Sombra were admitted.
If you need further proof of his manipulation, he was going to swing the vote for the other Malkavians in the city. Basically, everyone was going to vote his way. That's part of the reason we brought up the secret ballot.
Being opposed to the La Sombra being in the city only narrowed down the search. No one else had motive or ability to do what he did. And if it was anyone else, why would Zion and his game implicate Newberry?
Which kind of brings us to our last bit of evidence, is that Newberry attempted to dispose of the Gary kindred after the fact.
Zion will be able to tell you as much. He's in a questionable state, but we were able to repair him as much as we could.
Well, I appreciate your zeal in this matter, but I have to confess it does seem circumstantial at the moment.
At the moment?
I'm willing to believe the Gary kindred were responsible if you have video evidence, and I'm inclined to lead your direction on the basis that you found the co-conspirators lurking on Mr. Newberry's territory. Fine.
Lurking on his property? More
Miss
like...
LaRue, is this important enough for you to interrupt me in the middle of my thought?
Yes, because I think you are misunderstanding exactly what we're saying. When you say that they were lurking on his property, you're misunderstanding the situation. They were locked in cells that they could not get out of. Every single one of them was suffering from dementation. And when we were finally able to help Zion through that, he told us exactly what had happened, exactly what Newberry had been doing, that he had eaten his friends and was just waiting to come back to him.
So someone who, by your own admission, has been driven to the point of madness using kindred power, a crazy person, told you that Newberry is responsible, and that's enough for you.
The solution is simple. Just check Newberry and see if he's committed diablerie recently.
That would prove that Mr. Newberry committed diablerie, a sin of itself. It will not prove that he, as you allege, consumed Zion's co-conspirators, nor does it place him at Lakeshore Hospital.
It's his territory, is it not?
The hospital is his territory. He either didn't know and he's being an ignorant primogen, or he did know and he's been harboring terrorists.
Miss Lagasse, you were in my territory without my knowledge until quite recently. Is that because I'm ignorant or because I am complicit?
Which would you prefer?
Prince Jackson narrows his eyes. Your quip notwithstanding, I believe I've made my point on the issue.
Unfortunately, Newberry was very good at removing the evidence. But you of all people know how hard it is to organize large amounts of people, correct?
Indeed.
Then if 40 people agree on one story, at least one face, even if they're a little bit mad, wouldn't that be some evidence?
I believe what I've failed to communicate in this moment is that some evidence pointing towards our Malkavian primogen will not be sufficient to bring the whole of the city around. You're accusing Sun of attacking the city, of attacking the Camarilla, of attacking our kind on a most grievous level. And those accusations require more than circumstantial evidence. I'm more than happy to put these photos, he gestures down at Schmendrick's phone, in front of the primogen. And then what do I tell them when, rising to his own defense, Newberry says, a mentally ill kindred with a pre-existing axe to grind against our city has plenty of reasons to make this up, and all of his ramblings point in my direction, but show me my fingerprints. Show me my involvement. Put me at the scene.
Again, they were kept at Lakeshore Hospital. That's his territory. 40, at least, people kept at Lakeshore.
Maya does make a point. There are eyes aplenty to attest what Newberry has been up to.
We also have security guards. Perhaps they can confirm the face of their boss.
Allow me, perhaps, to demonstrate my concern in a more direct manner. With your permission, of course, may I have a volunteer?
Sure. And I step forward.
The prince stands up. Hands on the desk, he leans forward, his eyes boring into yours. He whispers, "Are you sure you were at Lakeshore Hospital? As I recall, Miss LaRue, you abandoned the coterie for a moment, and instead returned to your chantry to make a report to Abraham Dusable. Will you roll intelligence and resolve for me?"
4 successes.
Well, go look at those dice individually and tell me what the problem here is.
Is that a bestial failure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The prince is a potent and powerful vampire. As a Tremere, you have access to dominate as a discipline. You're familiar with what he's attempting to do. And as you feel that Ventru wriggle his fingers in behind your eyeballs to start massaging the reality as it is written in your brain, the beast recoils. Ivy slams her eyes shut, predatory in that moment, scrambling back into the corner, fangs bared, eyes cold. Prince Kevin Jackson is unblinking. Contain yourself, Miss LaRue. Now is not the time to lose control. Will you remind us what you were doing here the night that your friends went to search Lakeshore Hospital?
Like I said, I wasn't at Lakeshore Hospital when the rest of the coterie was there. I had to go back to the Chantry and deliver another report to Dusable, so I have no idea what happened.
God damn it, Ivy.
I fold my arms at this, like, you've made your point. But it's all leading to the same place, same person, even though it's circumstantial.
Right, and there were few Malkavians, few kindred in the city who have that power. Even if his memory was rewritten over, we can find a suspect, and it leads back to one place.
I sort of roll my head back and say, there's a chance I might be able to get concrete evidence, but it's slim. If I can find footage of son Newberry talking to Zion, that would be what you needed, right?
I should be clear, it's not just what I need. Kindred who unsuccessfully make a severe allegation against a member of the Primogen Council will have their own consequences to deal with. We're in this together. He's only making the point that it's not... You don't need evidence just to put Newberry down. If you go through with this and say it was Newberry and you fail, then you're all fucking dust, is what he's saying.
Oh, for sure. I'm just worrying about asking for more time.
I mean, if we fail and Newberry is still alive, we're still dust.
Yeah, we're fucked either way.
Yeah, he's going to get rid of us.
Are you saying that out loud?
Sure. Actually, let me rephrase it then. See, the issue with that is well, I have no evidence for it. I'm pretty sure Sun has tried to kill us multiple times. If we fail at this, it's not just going to be the accusation that gets us. He will make sure to finish the job.
Young Kindred with nothing to lose, then. Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Precisely.
I don't know, I have a lot to lose. But I feel pretty strongly about this.
I'd like to think that I'm not stuck here in Chicago, that I would have somewhere else to go if things went a little pear-shaped, but I'd like to stay.
Regardless of the outcome, I have to leave.
No.
Well, the choice is ultimately yours. The Primogen Council already know that I have assigned a group of investigators to the case. It is my assumption that many of them are astute enough to correctly guess your identities, and it will not be a surprise when you arrive in front of this tribunal. So I will ask you, formally, as your prince, who is responsible for the attack on the Diamond Yama Hotel?
Jason fucking Newberry.
Then I shall assemble the Primogen Council. I shall dispatch the sheriff to acquire the suspect. And in 5 nights' time, we shall meet at Elysium, where you will present your evidence to the Primogen assembled. You understand that if this goes poorly for you, I'm in no position to rescue you.
If we didn't think it was him, and we knew these were the circumstances, why would we pick someone so powerful to go after?
I'm sure that's the question the Primogen will be asking when they seek my permission to blood hunt the rabble-rousers attempting to tear down an upstanding member of the Primogen Council.
Upstanding. All right, we'll get some receipts.
With that settled, I believe you also have information to share with me about the Second Inquisition?
Yes, they're present in Chicago.
I gathered as much from the reports of a gun battle happening on the edge of my city, to say nothing of confessions made to my sheriff.
I shoot Maya a quick look from the corner of my eye and then go back to looking at the prince.
I toss my hair. They were brought into the city. They are mustering at Chanute Air Force Base. They are a problem for all kindred. And if it just so happens they were tipped off by someone looking to get rid of us, then all the more reason to bring that person to justice, no?
If you can prove that Newberry brought the Second Inquisition into Chicago for whatever purpose, that would definitely strengthen your case. It doesn't prove that he was behind the Diamond Yama, but anything that paints your target in a sinister light is useful. I suspect you will have more urgent concerns, however. You can expect, regardless of the outcome of our trial, we'll call it, we will be speaking further on this incident with the Second Inquisition. In the meantime, you have 5 days. Shore up whatever accusations you intend to make, and be prepared to come to Elysium to tell the city what you know.
I get the sense that I have a lot of work to do, a lot of files to pore over. So I take this as my leave, give the prince a nod, and start heading towards the door.
I've wounds to lick, both mental and physical, but we have a case to prepare. I have Zion's word, but in front of the Primogen Council, we need much more than that, and perhaps the Primogen's ears themselves. So it's best to begin on that work as soon as possible.
I'll turn on a heel and walk away. There's nothing else that I can say. We couldn't get more evidence. He cleaned up too well. So we'll just try again. Or we'll balance the odds in our favor.
Who could have seen that coming? You go to meet with the prince, he has problems he needs you to fix. You thought you had yourself a nice, airtight case. Turns out, that might not actually be true. And in true princely fashion, he had no suggestions. His tone was pretty much, you deal with it. How are you going to deal with it?
As we emerge from the office, I'm kind of pacing, thinking to myself, am I crazy? Because I feel like this is his MO. We were attacked before in the Sky Hotel by arsonists. Is it that big of a leap to assume that that was also our suspect? Remembering where I am, of course, I don't want to, basically just say Son Newberry tried to burn us out in the middle of the hallway.
I mean, no, I don't think it is, because I had that thought too back when we thought it was Charles.
Unfortunately, he's going to try to defend himself in trial, which means we need more than just a he said, we said situation.
Yeah, that's where it might get easier, though, because me and Joshua brought the two suspects in that arson to Bronwyn for questioning. Damien said we would get information back on whatever they discovered from them, but we've got nothing. So obviously I need to contact Damien, see if those two guys are still alive, and see what they know.
It's a reasonable plan. How do you intend to get that information out of them, if it exists?
That's not exactly my specialty. So I look to the other ladies gathered and kind of sigh before saying, do any of you know how to efficiently get information out of a human?
I can think of several ways.
Yes, I'm sure you can, Maya, but yes, there are some ways that you can get information out of a human without having to subject them to murderous Lasombra torturings.
Good. That would be preferred.
Wow, how...
I would also prefer that.
I didn't even say I was going...
You've all made a lot of assumptions just then.
I was going to ask if I was violent during the last interrogation, but I was.
I don't know. Can you really call that cute little slap violent?
Yes, domestic violence. Slap is still violence.
Quiet voice in my head. No, I would use a healthy dose of dominate. Something stronger than what I can do. And I have just the person.
Yeah, that'll work. All right, I'll contact Damien. You contact your contact, and we'll meet up somewhere?
Sure. Speaking of people we might have on hand, what about the guards we procured from Lakeshore?
What about them?
I would bet real money that they know more than they let on. And we still need to place Newberry at Lakeshore.
You don't think that they're just some random security detail that was hired?
Absolutely not. They acted too clever, too awake for just being random mortals.
I'm okay. I mean, do you think they're ghouls?
At least. Definitely not kindred, though.
All right. Well, I can work on that hunch. I know exactly who to talk to see if they're ghouls without having to As Schmendrick puts it, lick them.
More Tremere buddies?
Of course. I wouldn't trust this to anybody else.
I'd love to host a chantry gathering at my place, but I am worried about the 40 other souls we have there.
I'm worried about bringing more Tremere in when we still don't know where that blood potion came from.
Maya, do you ever get tired of insinuating that all Tremere are bad?
Absolutely not.
I'm sure.
It makes you squirm, and that amuses me.
I can't make any promises about the abundance of Tremere at the grain silo, but I'm working on getting the humans out into somewhere safe. Because I am not equipped to deal with them. They are very rambunctious. Let's put it that way.
Thank you, Schmendrick. I couldn't in good faith leave them there. Especially with whatever Ivy and her friends might be getting up to. I know Ivy, but can't say the rest of them.
If nothing else, you don't want to expose them to any more kindred stuff. There's already a pretty big breach of the Masquerade going on in between their ears. The less they witness, the better. The less they witness, the less there is to clean up.
And considering what they've already been through, I don't want to put them through any more of that.
Well then, as I understand it, the plan is as follows. Schmendrick is going to make contact with 2 people. Damien, to see if she can track down the arsonists from the Sky Hotel, and Khalid, who will help her arrange safekeeping for the humans. Correct?
That's right. At least until the humans are able to re-emerge into the world. I'm not sure how long that sort of thing will take, but hopefully we can improve their situation.
Meanwhile, both Maya and Ivy are going to track down some assistants. Ivy at the Chantry, and then Maya somewhere else. Who knows?
That is correct.
Well then, that leaves 1 kindred unaccounted for the next few nights. Rebecca?
As I mull this over, I unhunch my shoulders and it's best to be honest with the coterie. Look, guys, I really appreciate everything you're putting out here. It means that Newberry is going to see some justice, but I can't do it. I'll stay with the humans. I'll make sure that they're safely attended to, but I can't. It's just too much. I don't like any of this.
You're afraid to break a few eggs?
Maya, they're humans. They're people. They have families, lives. It's not eggs.
I just shrug.
Humans eat eggs. We eat humans.
Yeah, circle
Ergo,
of life.
humans are eggs. Yeah.
I'm just disappointed. We have something we need to get done, and you were clearly willing to make sure that happened, and now you're backing out. Don't you want to see justice? This is how we do it.
I want to see justice, Maya, but I don't want to see justice. Kindred justice. You can do whatever you need to, but I have had enough for these past few nights.
Enjoy your ignorance, then.
Well, that settles it then. You have phone calls to make, brooding to arrange. Once again, the coterie finds itself cashing in favors on someone else's behalf. There's no personal benefit from this, save for what gratitude the prince might give you. I can tell you one thing, though. That's a story for another night. You've been listening to The All Night Society, an actual play podcast brought to you by Queen's Court Games. If you enjoyed your stay, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. For more content, including exclusive art and audio, follow us on Facebook or Instagram at Queen's Court Games, or on Twitter at Queen's Court RPG.